This is Wes. He died a total of 287 times. This is Chicken Boy. He died a total of 998 times and made me never want to play this game again. This is Username. He would become my only loyal teammate. He also died about 150 times. And finally, Female Aveline. She died 654 times, one of them due to the cold. Our journey begins like every other one, with me working hard on the campfire. This is a story woven from pain and frustration, stitched together with bandages and nonsense. But it didn't start that way. At first, my teammates seemed to be helping with the fire as well. The plan is always the same, simple. Yet most players choose to focus on chests instead. It was only the first day, yet the campfire had already leveled up to 4, looking very promising. Because the map included the snow biome, I realized I needed a hat before venturing out to gather more fuel. While hunting for pelts, Aveline tried to steal mine and then complained when she failed. Some people have the nerve to wrong you and then hate you when they can't succeed. Even after all that disgusting behavior, I still revived her multiple times. Needing bear pelts for a better hat, I was hunting polar bears when the first tragedy struck. It was Wes, the first in what would become a long line of failures. I needed to deal with the beasts before rescuing Wes. However, Aveline got to him first. After feeding the fire, I went ahead to rescue the next child. And for the first time ever, I witnessed players communicating and making plans for a base. On the morning of the 6th day, we had our second tragedy. This time, it was Chicken Boy. But someone revived Chicken Boy before I could reach him. By day 6, I had upgraded the campfire to level 5, and I was satisfied with the progress. The next morning, my teammates brought up exploring the caves, and I shivered. I knew it spelled doom. But that wasn't going to stop me from making progress, so I went ahead to rescue the next child. I spent the day collecting fuel and looting, then made my way back to camp as night fell. The cultists' drums were going wild, and I had no idea if my teammates were in the caves, but I dashed back as fast as I could. Chicken Boy was down again. And Wes followed him shortly after. At first, I thought my teammates were in the caves, until I realized they were all being massacred by the cultists back at camp. I came close to losing my life several times as I desperately rushed back to help my teammates. The cultists had massacred them all, except for Username, the one player who would remain loyal in the end. My beloved teammates demanded to be revived and showed no gratitude, but it didn't matter. It was day 15 and the team was still strong, and so was the fire. With my beloved teammates alive and well, I could now focus on saving the last child. However, the map wasn't fully revealed yet, so I had to gather more fuel for the campfire first. Meanwhile, Aveline kept talking about planting dumplings. Honestly, how delicious does that sound? Wes was down again, how surprising. We were on opposite sides of the map, and it took me a long time to reach him. I made a quick stop to fuel the fire, and it was nearly fully upgraded. As I revived the boy, Aveline happily announced to everyone that the fire was almost fully upgraded. But how? What a mystery! As I gathered more fuel to complete the fire, Aveline added exactly 4 logs, taking credit for my hard work, and announced to everyone her greatest achievement. Anyhow, I was finally able to rescue the last child. By day 21, the campfire was finally done, and all the children were safe. I figured my teammates were motivated, even if they weren't doing much, so I thought I'd drop them a clue. Username was the only one who seemed to be doing something useful. As I cooled down after days of hard work, Aveline ran past me and succumbed a few moments later. The reason behind it, that will forever remain a mystery. I've begun to think that perhaps my presence is what causes players to die so much. With plenty of patience to spare, I revived the female without a moment's hesitation. The cultists were coming back to attack that night, and Chicken Boy, terrified, didn't make it past the anticipation. The cultists showed up, and no matter how fast I tried to take them down, my teammates kept dropping like flies. I'd revive one, and the next would bite the dust. Dealing with the cultists while simultaneously protecting my teammates and reviving them over and over is something that would drive anyone insane. At this point, I realized they were going AFK every time I revived them. With the cultists taken care of and only 2 bandages to spare, I set out to rescue Chicken Boy from wherever he'd ended up. Chicken Boy had perished right next to a church, where I was fortunate enough to find medical supplies for my beloved teammates. I retrieved his chicken body and revived him. He was so grateful I almost cried. Female Aveline had been politely asking to be revived and hadn't disconnected, which allowed me to continue the journey. I politely asked for the bodies and brought them back to life. The gratitude was immeasurable. I cried for days. That night, username was down again. The boy had been AFK. While Wes and Aveline plotted their next death, Chicken Boy got ahead of them and succumbed. Determined to impress my teammates, I built a crockpot and several farm plots in hopes of keeping them alive a little longer. At the same time, Wes realized he could use scrap to build shelves and immediately set to work. Wes stared, completely confused that I wasn't impressed by his masterpiece. Wes and Aveline had been alive way too long, and now they were scheming to storm the cultists' stronghold. I decided to tail them closely. The outcome was both predictable and excruciating. Female Aveline requested my help. Essentially, she wanted me to do all the work while she watched. For entertainment, I began taking down the cultists, only for her to run away. Back at camp, the situation was grim. Only Aveline was still alive, and the rest of the team was dead and AFK. I decided to revive Chicken Boy, for reasons unknown, but at least he wasn't AFKO. I spent the entire day searching for more bandages, but had to rush back to camp, since the cultists were returning that night, and both female Aveline and Chicken Boy would certainly perish without my help. I always go first for the cultists with crossbows because they're more dangerous, yet despite that, Aveline was dead once again. After defeating the last cultist, I was at least happy that Chicken Boy was alive, but he was determined to drive me insane. On the miserable morning of day 49, my whole team was dead in front of me and things looked grim. I had only one bandage left, so I asked who should be revived, but in the end it didn't matter, so I simply revived the weakest. They all started claiming to be babies to appeal to my fatherly nature, but I knew very well they weren't. A lurking cultist nearly took Aveline's life again, but I was quick enough to stop it. Knowing the journey would be over if I didn't at least try to find them bandages, I set out to do just that. I risked my life exploring the snow biome for bandages until I finally found one. They had to decide who would be revived again, and Chicken Boy was victorious. How can anyone not revive a Chicken Boy whose mum is homeless? In the morning, I set out to look for more bandages for my other teammates. That was the sound of inevitable eternal uselessness coming from Chicken Boy. And female Aveline, who had stayed at camp, felt pressured into following Chicken Boy to the grave. Meanwhile, Chicken Boy, out of shame and frustration, began to accuse me of his death. I risked my life yet again to retrieve Chicken Boy, and headed back to camp to assess the situation. Knowing there was no other choice but to continue agonizing, I set out once more in search of bandages. Eventually I found a bandage and I cried a little. But then I found the church full of medical supplies, and I cried a lot. Being told what to do by dead players is infuriating. The nerves. But I now had enough bandages to revive everyone. Yay! I made them promise they wouldn't die this time, and I believed them because people never lie. But before reviving them, I eliminated all the cultists to ensure my teammates kept their word. I revived all of them except for Username, who was evidently still AFK. My teammates thanked me with tears running down their faces, which of course made me cry in solidarity. Since this was how my teammates decided to protect the base, I decided to contribute to their garbage. While I was busy placing barbed wire, someone dragged Username and placed his rotting corpse inside the dog's cage. You can tell what goes through the minds of such players. It gets to a point where I am numbed, the pain begins to fade, and all I can do is laugh. Chicken Boy conveniently said he would be AFK after dying. As I approached his chicken corpse, Wes had returned to the cultist's stronghold to meet his end. I had lost count of how many times my teammates had gone AFK and how many times they had announced it. While retrieving Wes, Username, who had been AFK the longest, suddenly disconnected from the game. They had promised me they wouldn't die, and they lied. Wes, the coward, had now also disconnected. While Aveline was busy building more shelves, I was surprised by the sudden return of Username, completely unexpected. I wanted to make sure he understood what I had gone through and valued my last bandage before I revived him. Username would prove his loyalty from this moment until the very end. The cultists were back, and Aveline was ready to perish one more time. She expressed her views on the cold, and we all felt extremely saddened. When you think the agony is over, you are suddenly given one more bandage. It only seems fair to me to always let my teammates decide who gets revived. But unfortunately, neither of them had the intellectual capacity to understand the assignment and kept asking me. Tired of trying to explain it to them, I went off to find more bandages, but I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and destined to continue suffering. For the first time in nearly 2 hours of playing, it was my turn to die, and it felt strangely refreshing. Female Aveline would disconnect from the game that night without a word. Forever garbage. Yes, finally! Chicken Boy didn't hesitate to take the opportunity to attack me, after everything I had done for him. However, after asking me if he should come, loyal Username bravely came to my rescue. I was back on my feet and ready to continue this agonizing journey. Against all odds, I had now found one more bandage. And despite Chicken Boy's never-ending ungratefulness and offenses, I revived him. Username wanted to revive the fire by adding 3 logs at a time, so I gathered scrap and built him the biofuel processor instead. While Username worked on the fire and Chicken Boy plotted new ways to die, I decorated the camp for no reason. Chicken Boy had now found a new way to die, and despite my efforts to stop him, in the end, I had to follow him. Chicken Boy was surprisingly not doing horribly, but the cultists certainly hated his presence. I almost completely forgot to help him. Chicken Boy barely made it out alive, and that was enough caves for him. After Chicken Boy's last adventure, many days passed without tragedy, until he couldn't resist any longer. He said he was sorry for the first time, and for the first time, it didn't feel so irritating to revive him. Plus, he also thanked me. Wow. The next day, Chicken Boy was mauled by bears. This time, the only way I could bring him back was by crafting a bandage. He had now gone back to being ungrateful and irritating. Meanwhile, Username, who had been working on the campfire for what felt like 1,000,000 days, needed praise. Having a little time for myself, I hunted mammoths for their tusks, while Chicken Boy once again risked his life to increase my agony. After recovering the garbage and dropping it at the camp, I was finally able to obtain my beloved helmet. Behind those seemingly sweet and kind eyes lie deep pain, seething anger, and endless suffering. But how good the helmet looks. Chicken Boy had now been revived by username. While gathering scrap, Chicken Boy was Chicken Boy. Knowing username was working hard and had joined the game with only 46 days, I happily upgraded the bench and placed down the last bed for him to accumulate more days. Chicken Boy, who had been revived again by username, was out there in desperate need of more death. It was the morning of day 235, and I was exhausted. I couldn't bring myself to rescue Chicken Boy again, so I asked my teammates for a favor to put me out of my misery. Username, who naively couldn't understand the assignment, loyally obeyed, but Chicken Boy completely ignored my request. And with a perfect shot, username set me free. Username, who gradually began to understand the situation, broke down in tears as I explained to him with my last breath that he needed to avoid rescuing Chicken Boy to survive. Username knew he wouldn't be able to deal with Chicken Boy and took the easy way out. My body refused to leave the game, as though fate itself had condemned me to continue this agonizing journey, while Chicken Boy prepared to grace me with one final torturous act. He set out to the farthest region of the map for absolutely no reason, and died. This time for good. Goodbye forever, Chicken Boy. Garbage!